6:15.
Hey! Oh!
Choke points.
Let's go!
Planning for game day every day is not just the mantra for the Hawks or the Huskies. It's the focus of Sound Transit as it prepares to open light rail all the way to Lynnwood. Here's Chris.
Game day for Sound Transit comes August 30th. That's the day passenger service to and from Lynnwood begins. And then it will be game day every day after that. The trains have been simulating daily service for weeks. You've seen the trains running up and down I-5. Maintenance workers have been honing their skills as well. I spoke with Sound Transit Deputy CEO Ross Arnold on the soon-to-be-open Lynnwood station earlier this week. He says they've moved into scenario testing as the start date nears.
Every day's the game for us. This is all the practice. So we run a couple different scenarios, in case this happens, so we, really know what to do. We can get the service back up and running as normal whenever, right? So right now we're just scenario testing to make sure the team that's up here and going to be driving it every day and maintaining it every day is ready to go.
So basically any kind of scenarios, like what happens if there's a mechanical problem? What happens if that mechanical problem happens high up in the air? Because as you've noticed, there's some really high tracks between Northgate, gone up through Mount Lake Terrace and into Lynnwood. So they've got a lot to train for, how to respond to emergencies. It's all being fine-tuned as the trains get ready to run for real.
Getting them used to it, getting them used to the grade changes and up and down and everything else, and then getting them used to, you can't pull into this side of that platform. So you got to know where the crossover is. You got to know when to change over and when you're going to change back and how that all works.
Yeah, the operators just can't point north or south or go. They've got to figure out where those switching points are. It's a lot more difficult than you might think to pull this off. But there's some personal achievement in this as well, because Arnold is the Chief Service Delivery Officer for Sound Transit. He's been watching this line grow for more than 6 years of construction.
When I look at it, I think, oh man, the ridership I think is going to be higher than what we thought. I think people are going to be excited, and I'm excited for it.
Sound Transit expects 47,000 to 55,000 riders a day on this route by 2026. And while this is a great commuter option, certainly, we talked about it earlier this week, how Community Transit is moving all their buses to funnel everybody to the light rail there. The light rail expansion into the suburbs now provides a fast and reliable way to get to big-time events in Seattle.
Wait until people realize I'm going to go down to a Mariners game. I'm going to go to Seahawks, you can get to a Husky game from here now. Don't have to. Easy. So when people start to realize that, that's my concern, every day. How do we make sure that we can meet what people expect every day?
Let's not forget how that first big crush after the Apple Cup happened going through Northgate. There were so many people on the trains, they actually weighed the trains down, and then that's when they found out they forgot to shear off some bolts, and that led to the problems there. So those are some of the things they're going over to make sure that they are prepared for that kind of service. Just a couple of quick facts here to keep in mind as we kind of look back on this now. This project is part of ST2, which was passed by voters in 2009, not ST3, which was passed in 2008. It's about 6 months behind schedule. It's about $500 million over budget. It costs $3 billion to complete. The budget was blown by the explosion in house prices and construction costs. Let's not forget that Sound Transit really underestimated how much it would cost to buy all the homes and property needed to go along the tracks as we went through that housing explosion there through 2010, 2011 when they were buying all that property. Then you throw in COVID, a concrete strike, and that's where you end up with your 6-month delays. But this should be, as they're calling it up there in the Lynnwood area, a generational change in how we get around Puget Sound.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the cost is astronomical, but the way I look at it is this is like building a second I-5. I mean, if you were going to handle that capacity by building a highway, imagine how much property you'd have to buy up. When you look at I'm still amazed when I go under some of those Sound Transit overpasses that's wide enough to carry a train in each direction.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, it's
So if you're going to build, 6 more lanes of highway to handle the equivalent car traffic, what would that cost?
A lot, and you would have had to take out the Jackson Park Golf Course. You would have had to take out a whole bunch of stuff, a lot of the U District to make that happen. It's kind of astronomical when you think about it. But yeah, and this is where we're going to start maybe seeing some of the impact of this. As I've said, once it gets somewhere outside of like Seattle,
once it goes across
the lake, that's the game changer.
Now, at that point, I'm going to be worried about getting a seat because and they have the capacity, though, to just tack on more cars,
Yeah,
right?
they can. Right now, they're running four different cars up to Lynnwood, what they're doing. And, of course, let's not forget that because of where they put the trains originally and where they're housing some of them, we can't run full capacity on the train to Lynnwood because those trains are on
the
east side
yeah.
and they need to get across the lake first
That's where
before
the
they can
maintenance
attach
yard
them.
is. Yeah.
So that really needs to get up to run because then they could start running full legit service. They're thinking about every 10 minutes now, but when they get those extra cars, they can run 5 to 6 minute headways. That would be a lot better and a lot faster service and a lot better seats trying to get down to, say, opening day at Mariners games. So
I still think that Bellevue run is pretty cool, though, too. You get some really great views of Bellevue's a real city.
Yeah, it is. I mean, well, as I drive down every day, as I've been doing this for 20 years, there used to not be a skyline as I looked over the Ship Canal Bridge to the east. Now there's a pretty significant skyline over there. It's the real deal if you haven't been over there and seen how that downtown has revitalized itself, even though they had to get rid of my favorite Toys R Us that was there. And
that was a long time.
Yeah, I know. That's how long it's been.
How far back we go on
Yeah,
here?
we're going to 15 years. Yeah, probably.
I remember when Bellevue Square was just a strip mall.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
things are a little different.
Yeah. On fare enforcement, we haven't talked about that in a while.
Yeah.
I know the security on the east side line is everywhere.
Correct.
There's cops at every station, so I'm impressed by that. But fare enforcement, where are they on that?
Well, they're still they are not being as aggressive as they can be. They have started to try to enforce, but if you don't give them any ID, which they don't require, they can't really violate you. If you don't have it and they don't give you ID or proof of payment, then they're like, well, okay, and it goes from there. So they're still struggling their way through that, but there is definitely, better police enforcement there, at least on the east side. Matter of fact, I sat down with the mayor of Lynnwood and asked her whether she might actually do the same thing, and she told me that was not something she had heard of, and I figured since she's the mayor, she would know.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to her. We'll use some of that a little later on this month as we prepare. But yeah, fire enforcement's still trying to get back to what they need to do. Turnstiles.
Well, I know turnstiles. Of course, turnstiles. The ones I saw in Paris are the ones in New York. You can jump them, so they've gone to these like actual rotating cages.
Gates, yeah. I'm not sure that's how we roll here into the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, it's like running your body through a vegetable mandolin.
Oh yeah, that's kind of like what you have when you try to leave the zoo.
Yeah,
one of those ones where one person per. Yeah, and if you can get stuck, you used to try to stick your siblings and get them caught in there.
Yeah,
exactly.